Hello everybody, my name is Necroxis, and this is a very short video where I want to give some predictions for Blizzcon, which is starting tomorrow. So I'm going to be going through the games that are most important to me. I'll probably cover all of them, but there are some games like Overwatch that I really don't care about, so there'll be like 10-second comment about that at the best. So also, if you want to watch the opening ceremony with me tomorrow, I'm going to be live streaming it, which you can find the information in the comment box below. It's at my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Necroxis9. And yeah, just like I did in 2016 with Dunn. Last year I was at Blizzcon, and this year I didn't go because I had a wedding like 2 weeks ago. Spent a lot of money on, so I didn't go this year. And we're going to be live streaming it. I'll probably be by myself this time, but who knows. And I'm just going to give you my general thoughts. I'll probably export that video to YouTube later tomorrow after the closing ceremony happens. So yeah, just some general thoughts about BlizzCon this year. I've been listening to a lot of people talking about BlizzCon as in general, especially people who are very knowledgeable about Blizzard. People like, well, from the outside perspective, people like Jesse Cox, who have been, along with other people, in the Blizzard fanosphere online for almost as long as it's existed. People like Jesse Cox and Total Biscuit, rest in peace. People like them. And Jesse said some pretty interesting things on the Co-optional podcast, where he said this year very much feels like one of those make your own adventure or find your own fun, or I guess a little bit more pejoratively, people might say this seems like more like a Geek Is year, for those who remember. I think it was 2011 or 2011, because 2010 was Cataclysm. Maybe 2011, there was a year where they basically had nothing important to announce. So Chris Metzen had like this really long speech in the intro about like Geek Is and what does it mean to be like a geek and blah blah blah. And that's kind of become a meme in place of actual important announcements. That's kind of what I feel like we're going into this year. Not entirely, which we'll get to in a little bit, but as a whole, unless Blizzard drops some huge, big, gigantic hidden news, which they usually don't do, they'll usually tease some things. The only case they've never done that, I think, is Overwatch, where they dropped Overwatch and no one knew what was going on, but that was basically it. So, let's start with the least important to me, which is probably Overwatch. I don't play Overwatch. I'm really not interested in Overwatch. I don't know what they're going to be doing this year for Overwatch. My prediction is possibly a new hero. Maybe a new map. If there's a new hero, they'll have a new map. My fantasy for Overwatch would be like a story mode. I've wanted that from the literally very beginning, the second they announced it, but we're probably not ever going to get that because they only want to keep the story in the comics, which is, I think, a terrible decision. I don't like them doing that, but there you go. Overwatch. Next, Hearthstone. Couldn't possibly care less about Hearthstone. They're going to be announcing the next expansion, whatever it is, the last expansion of this year. Hearthstone. I guess the next one after that would be, sadly, and only because there doesn't seem to be much going on for this franchise anymore, it is StarCraft. I think the best we're possibly going to get is a new co-op commander, which is pretty cool. There was a leak going around for a bunch of stuff at this BlizzCon. Supposedly, the co-op commander they're leaking is Zeratul. Who knows? Take that as you will. I would be interested to see how Zeratul differs from Vorazun, because they're both basically the same character, which is kind of why they had to kill off Zeratul to introduce Vorazun in the campaign, because they both basically were the same archetype. They were this stealthy, anti-hero-like character who will get what needs to be done, even if it doesn't gel with the rules. I don't know how the gameplay is going to differ, because they're both basically like the stealth Dark Templar hero, so I don't know. What would I want for a co-op commander if it wasn't Zeratul? I don't really know. I would want something like real crazy, like maybe, again, this is me like hoping Blizzard eventually comes back to StarCraft and makes like StarCraft 3, but I would love like something from the United Earth Directorate, like which was in StarCraft Brood War. It was basically this giant military force from Earth that came all the way out to the Kaprulu sector, and they caused a whole bunch of shenanigans. You know, characters like Stukov, who are still in the game, originally was from Earth, and he was a part of the United Earth Directorate, and he was serving under Admiral Dugal, who ends up killing himself. Spoiler alert for a 20-year-old game at the end of Brood War. because his forces have lost so much that they're about to be overtaken by Kerrigan and the Swarm. So he commits suicide aboard his ship, which I think was the Bucephalus, maybe? I'm not sure what his battlecruiser was called. But I would love, like, a United Earth Directorate character. Like, even if somehow... I'm not sure if Blizzard does this in co-op commanders like they do in Heroes of the Storm, where they'll introduce characters who are already dead and they won't care, they'll ignore that. But it'd be really cool if, like, Dougal was, like, a co-op commander. That's something I would really like. Also, this leak that I've mentioned also said that there's, like, this Alarak mission pack coming, kind of like Nova Covert Ops. I really doubt that, but I would really love that. Like I said, I really love the StarCraft franchise, and I don't want it to die, so whatever, I'll pay for it. I'll buy it on pre-order tomorrow, because I love StarCraft. I mean, I really, really like the missions and the story of this universe, so if there is, like, some Alarak storyline, I don't know what they could do with it, but sure. Next, let's see, I guess World of Warcraft. I'm leaving one for last, and you're probably gonna figure out why pretty soon. World of Warcraft, and the reason why I don't think the leak I was talking about is actually true at all is because this leak said that 8.1 was going to be talked about at BlizzCon, but we know everything there is to know about 8.1. There's, like, nothing left that they're hiding except for, like, 1 or 2 in-game cinematics, I would imagine. Probably one that takes place after, you know, Rastakan's fight in the raid, maybe another one after Jaina's fight. Maybe there's one after the Naga raid, or the old god raid with the 2 bosses. But we know literally everything else. We know the 2 raids, we know the allied races that are coming, we know all of, like, the war campaign continuation, we know how the invasions are working, we know the Dark Shore Warfront, we know what's going on with new island expedition stuff. There's, like, nothing else to put in 8.1 that they would show off at BlizzCon. And they even said flat out that they weren't talking about 8.1 at BlizzCon, which is kind of why that leak I'm talking about doesn't hold a lot of water to me. So, that being said, I expect we'll hear about 8.2, possibly even 8.2.5 or 8.3. I expect 8.2 to be Najatar or the Queen Ajara patch with the Queen Ajara raid. Because I honestly would be kind of surprised if N'Zoth is in this at all until, like, the very, very end. I expect, and what I want, is the proper, full, warranted appearance of Queen Ajara and the Naga. The Naga should be 99% of the raid. The Old God stuff should not really even be a part of it, except maybe in Queen Ajara's fight a little bit at the very end. This should be like, this is the full might of the Naga as we've never ever seen them before. Here you go. I expect Queen Ajara will raise Najatar from the seafloor. And the new zone or zones, if they're going to do like an Argus thing, will probably be Najatar. The raid will probably be Zinajari, the palace, which is centered around the Well of Eternity. I'm very interested to see what the storyline they're going to go with this, other than just Ajara as being evil. Like, there's got to be more than just that. A theory that I really like that I kind of just came up with on the fly a couple days ago when I was thinking about it is, with all this Azurite popping up everywhere, wouldn't it be interesting if the original Well of Eternity, which is where Zinajari is centered upon, the palace, Ajara's palace, was right by the original Well of Eternity. And we know that there's remnants of that Well of Eternity that still exists at the bottom of the ocean. You know, it's why the Maelstrom exists, because that's where the Well of Eternity was. Wouldn't it be interesting if the remnants at the bottom of the ocean had a bunch of Azurites show up around it? And we didn't really know about it, and this whole time we're doing Battle for Azeroth and we're fighting each other, but there's, like, Ajara's, like, hoarding all this Azurite that was kind of growing around her remnants of Well of Eternity, and she kind of just pops the whole island up and is like, surprise, bitches, here I am, I have a shit ton of Azurite. Y'all think you know what warfare is with Azurite? Here we go. Like, that would be really cool, in my opinion. So, I imagine if 8.2 is Najatar, then 8.2.5 will be the raid itself. I assume we'll hear about both of those things. I would be surprised if we only hear about the patch and not the raid. I would imagine we'd hear about both. So yeah, that's what I'm expecting for World of Warcraft. They'll be talking about Classic, whatever. Classic is Classic. The deal with Classic is everyone's still fawning nostalgically over it, and then 95% of people will play it on the first month and then quit because they hate how it is. And that's as someone who played hardcore in vanilla. I didn't just play vanilla. I raided in vanilla. I hardcore raided in vanilla. So I know more than many people, more than almost everybody, how insane vanilla actually is. Because I was doing Blackwing Lair. We cleared Blackwing Lair. We were doing AQ40. We were almost about to kill Twin Emps. And we were pushing into Spiderwing Nax. We either killed Maxna or we were about to kill her and clear the Spiderwing and Nax, which was the easiest one. Which was still incredibly difficult. But, like, I'm not just shitting on vanilla because I don't like it. I want everyone to try it out. To actually see how it was. I'm just warning you, it's a fucking shit show, everybody. It's a shit show where half the specs for all the classes are just bad. And they're just like, oop, they're bad. Oh, well, they're not going to be balanced unless they break their own rule of not changing vanilla, because half the specs in vanilla were bad. I'm sorry to tell you. There was lots of grinding. 50 to 60 was terrible. There were large stretches of time where you were just killing mobs because you had no quests. Quests were either too low or too high, and you couldn't do them. And vanilla is not like current gen, where right now in Battle for Azeroth, if you're like 103 or like 113, you could probably kill like 117, 118 fairly easily. In vanilla, if you were like level 40 and you were fighting like a level 43, that was almost impossible unless you were a very specific class and spec. So I keep warning people because I don't want people to spend money on something that they don't understand what they're getting into. So just, we'll have more classic news there. I don't really know what else they're going to say. They'll probably have the announcement of when it's launching. Maybe they'll have, because for the ticket they're doing this really piddly, like, level 15 to level 18 experience where you're, like, in the Barrens and in Westfall, I guess, for, like, 1/4 of the zone. I don't know if there's just not more ready yet, or why they're restricting it so hardcore. Because that low level on, you don't have a ton of abilities, and some of the ones you do are not combat, they're like utility. Like breathing underwater and stuff like that for warlocks. So, my point bringing that up was I'm waiting for them to announce like a general beta for Classic in general, and then the announcement date. I imagine they'll have at least one of those, if not both. They'll at least talk about when they're going to go into like an open beta or like a closed beta, and then also launch date or both. So that's my expectations there. So that's Warcraft. Now we come to Diablo. Diablo is the trickiest one in the bunch. Maybe the trickiest franchise to predict in quite a long time, quite many years. Because Blizzard's been playing really fast and loose with our expectations for Diablo. Very originally, before any like teasing and hype news came out, we've seen job postings for a lot of interesting positions labeled under the Diablo banner. Things such as, new modelers, new texture people. I don't know the official terms for these people because I don't work in the industry, but people who do models and textures, people who do like the environment, and people who do like combat. They were labeling it as an action RPG, so people were kind of wondering, alright, are they working on Diablo 4? Or are they like revamping Diablo 1 and Diablo 2? Or are they doing something completely different? Are they doing like a phone game? Or are they doing like a battle royale? I'm just kidding for that one, but what are they doing? And so then we get told from the official Diablo account, they put out a video with their like senior community manager or something, I don't remember what her name was, talking about like, we have lots of stuff at Diablo this year, so be ready for Diablo news. And then everyone freaked out. We're like, oh, we're getting Diablo 4 and blah, 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 blah. And so then I think Blizzard went, oh shit, we gotta really tamp down on this hype. So then they put out a big, long blog post about, we'll be showing some stuff, but then some stuff won't be available, but we might talk about it. So I don't know what they're doing with Diablo this year. We're gonna get something. The lowest percentage chance of things happening, I think, will be Diablo 4. I think if they do announce a Diablo 4, it'll be like the Diablo 3 announcement, which if people don't remember, they kind of just played they have like a live player playing one of the Diablo instrument. I don't know what that like a sitar. It's not a sitar, but the instrument that plays in the main theme of Diablo. they had someone doing that, and they showed like 1/3 of the Leah introduction cinematic where she's seeing like the meteor fall, and then they announced it, and that was it. And they showed a little bit of gameplay. I think it was with the Barbarian, but they really didn't show much. So if we do get Diablo 4, I think we'll get that or maybe even less. They might just pull like an Elder Scrolls 6 where they just have like a pointless cinematic 30-second clip and then they go, Diablo 4, it's coming! Anyway, bye! Like I think that's the best chance scenario for Diablo 4. I don't expect that happening. What I think is far more likely, they might talk about Diablo on the Switch because it's coming out tomorrow, but I don't know how much time they're going to devote to it because it's already launched. Like, it's launching tonight of this video at midnight. So they might talk about that for just a little bit in like their opening monologue in the Diablo section. I think what's most likely, and I don't know if we're going to get one or both of these things, but I think what's most likely is a Diablo 1 and Diablo 2. So there's two things that could happen. We could get a Diablo 1 and a Diablo 2 remaster. And the remaster would be like StarCraft remastered, where they didn't really remake the game. They didn't remake the engine. They kind of just like spit-shined all the models so they looked extra shiny. And they kind of added support for like current generation stuff. Because I don't know, I still do this occasionally, but I don't know if anyone else of you have gone back and tried to play Diablo 2 now, or Diablo 1 especially. It's hard to do on current gen consoles, or current gen PCs. You can do it, but a lot of the times you're like stuck in like this really tiny window, or you have to blow up the entire thing and take up an entire monitor, which is also very unfeasible with how zoomed in Diablo 2 is and Diablo 1. So if they do the remaster, it'll be kind of like StarCraft, where they spit-shine all the models, and they kind of do some UI improvements. They'll have like window settings and all that good stuff for current-gen PCs. So there's that. I think that's the most likely scenario, but what also could be quite likely is that they do a remake of Diablo 1 and maybe Diablo 2, one of those two. Or both. But a remake would be like, from the ground up, we are remaking these games in a current gen situation. They could get away with not spending as much resources on it by building it in the Diablo 3 engine, which would be very interesting if that Diablo 20th anniversary thing where they remade part of Diablo 1 in Diablo 3. It'd be interesting if that was like a holiday event, but them also testing out, like, can we remake Diablo 1 in the Diablo 3 engine? Like, I could see them definitely doing that, being like, hey, we're gonna remake Diablo 1 and 2, but it's in the Diablo 3 engine, and you'll have a bunch of new models and stuff, but it's still using the Diablo 3 engine. If that's the case, I really hope they keep the gameplay mechanics like Diablo 2 and Diablo 1. I personally like Diablo 3, and I have defended it more than a lot of people, especially Reaper of Souls, which I think is a very good game for what it is. And I've caused many fights between me and one of my friends in particular who really hates Diablo 3 and likes Path of Exile. But if they do this, I want the gameplay to be like Diablo 2. I don't want it to be Diablo 3's gameplay, but you're just in Kurast instead. Like, if that makes sense for people who know that game. I don't want them to just be like, oh, it's still only 4 abilities and they're like on like a 40-second cooldown for the better ones. I want it to be like Diablo 2's gameplay if they do that. So those are kind of my predictions for Diablo. Lowest chance of anything happening, I think, is Diablo 4. If there is, we'll get nothing on it. We'll get like the title card maybe, and unless they somehow like really just amped up production on that somehow, I don't know how, but knowing Blizzard, if we do get Diablo 4, it'll be like a title card, maybe like a 10-second clip of a cinematic or something, maybe one like short video of one class. That's really stretching it. I don't think that's going to happen. They're going to talk about Diablo Switch, obviously, Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls on Switch, and then we have the Diablo 1 and 2 HD remake or remaster, or not both, but one of those two I think is very likely to happen. And they could kind of tie it into Diablo's 25th, or whenever the next big milestone anniversary for that is coming. So yeah, those are kind of my predictions for Diablo. I something that's like really like out of nowhere that I would love is a Diablo animated series, kind of like Castlevania on Netflix. I think that'd be great, because I don't know anybody who is familiar with Blizzard games who hasn't said at one point, why have they not done like an animated series or a movie or something yet? So I would love if it was like a Castlevania-esque animated, more adult animated series, like on Netflix. That would be super cool, and that's something I would really like, but that's like a real long shot out of the park. So, those are my thoughts about BlizzCon 2018. As you could tell, there's not really a lot of big standouts there. Diablo 4 would be like the biggest standout, but I don't think that's even happening. Oh, I didn't talk about Heroes of the Storm. I knew I was forgetting one. Heroes, I really do love Heroes, and of course for Heroes all they're going to do is announce 2 or 3 new heroes, maybe a new map. I would like one of the new heroes to be Lady Vashj or Queen Azara, but specifically Lady Vashj because I just like Lady Vashj, and there isn't like a Lady Vashj-esque Dota kind of character in Heroes of the Storm yet, and I think there should be one that has like a mana shield and has like frost arrows, and like I would love to see them try to implement Tornado into the Heroes of the Storm engine as an ability. But I would really like a Lady Vashj character. If we can't get her, I kind of want an Azara character. Instead, I think they could really easily combo Azara with 8.2 if they wanted to put Azara out. I think one of those two needs to be one of those, and I'd be very excited. For the other 1 or 2 characters for heroes, I would say probably an Overwatch hero, maybe like a Reaper or like a Zenyatta, maybe. Because Blizzard really, Blizzard's on this kick of don't put out a lot of assassins at one time because there's already a lot. So if they put out like a Zenyatta, he could be a support or something. But again, because I'm not super big on Overwatch, I don't particularly care. If it is a big Diablo year, it'd be really cool to have like Andariel or Imperius or even someone weird like Duriel or Leah. I don't know how they do it, but or someone like that. That would be an interesting one as well. They just did Mephisto, so I don't know how much they want to return to Diablo, but I think that kind of rule has been nullified. Jumping back and forth between the same franchise of introducing new heroes. They have broken that before, especially with Overwatch, so I don't know how much that rule still counts, but I would really like another Diablo character. I want Lady Vashj or Zara, and then like a Diablo character. Like an Imperius or like an Andariel. One of those two I think would be my favorites. Duriel would be cool too, but I think that's more far-fetched. So anyway, those are my BlizzCon predictions or just general thoughts in the comments below. As you can tell, not a huge BlizzCon year this year, and I think it's evident even by their own musical guests, which they have 3 different musical guests. They have Train, Lindsey Sterling, and the actor who plays Hodor, who's a DJ. I don't even know his real name. Sorry, dude. You're Hodor. They're like on different stages all performing at the same time. So that's very strange. It's very out of the ordinary. So I don't know. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are about BlizzCon this year in the comments below. Like I said, if you want to watch it live with me tomorrow, my Twitch is in the comments below. We'll be starting probably at like 10:30 Central Time. It'll be 10:45 right before the opening ceremony begins, and we'll talk a little bit about during and a little afterwards what I thought, what was going on. I'll export it later to YouTube. If you don't want to watch it live with me, you can still see it if you want. But until then, thanks for watching, everyone. My name is Necroxis. I'll see you tomorrow. Have fun if you're somehow you're watching this at BlizzCon. Have a great time. I was there last year. It's super fun. Enjoy yourselves immensely. If not, why not snark a little bit about it with me tomorrow? So, thanks guys. I'll see you then. Farewell.